Hi everyone, welcome to The Superficial Spirit, where we explore how pop culture affects our spiritual experiences. My name is Peter Breeze. Join me while we ask a very important question. What the hell did pop culture do to me? Everyone, welcome to The Superficial Spirit. I hope you're having a good time in your life right now. Oh my God, it's continuously crazy. The election is done. Well, I guess it depends who you ask. The election is done. It is definitely, in normal times, it would be done and Joe Biden would be the president. But, you know, we have some crazy shit going on in the US. And I know that's been very consuming for a lot of people, including me and Evan. Evan has always been so into politics, and I wasn't, because I was, I was one of those people in my teens and 20s that just felt like, I don't care about politics. It's not interesting. And just through osmosis, I've learned so much and have become, I wouldn't say extremely passionate, but interested in the things that happen both in Canada and across the border, because we're so close. So I'm happy that that intense news cycle is at least out of our house for the time being, because it was really, my anxiety was so bad. And I don't know if it was linked specifically to the election, but or like the way that every time I was on Twitter and watching the news, it just seemed so surreal, like an apocalyptic movie. And that was really hard to take in. So yeah, it's been really, really wild. Toronto, our COVID cases are going up. We're over 1,500, which is crazy. And I feel like another complete lockdown is coming, which is a little nerve-wracking. But there's nothing really we can do. We just have to play it safe and do the best to follow all the protocols, wear masks, wash our hands, don't see people. The don't seeing people, I understand completely. I also feel like there's a lot of people, and I'm included, who are like on the verge of intense mental health crises because they are alone, or they're stressed about money, or they're just anxious about the future. And, it's a conversation I think that we need to keep open about, because, the financial downfall of this type of pandemic is obviously catastrophic, but so is the wave of mental health crisis that we're currently experiencing. So many people that are my friends, but maybe that I haven't really talked to on the phone regularly, have been calling me and telling me, I'm going through a hard time. This is crazy. I don't know what to do. And to me, that is a huge difference from day-to-day life. Like, I know my own anxiety and my depression has been definitely more prominent in the last 6 months, and more recently in the last 2 months. And it feels better that talking to my friends and knowing that they're going through the same thing, but it also makes me sad because it is so hard. And, I just hope that people are reaching out and getting the support that they need. I know it can be really, what's the word I'm looking for? Intimidating to find mental health help, especially if you are looking for public support, help that you don't have to pay for. And so I really sympathize with that process of making the calls, waiting for people to get back to you, getting added to wait lists, getting referred to by doctors. There are a lot of meetings out there. I know there's 12-step meetings, which is great because it's free if that's what you want to do. Those are the only real free ones that I know about. You can always call me, honey, and listen to the podcast. And I hope that when you listen to this, you get some relief, and that hopefully we take your mind off things, even though I just talked for how many minutes about how awful the world is. Annie. Anyway, today I am talking to somebody that I've wanted to have on the podcast literally since I started. And we've set up a few interviews, and they haven't worked out for whatever reason, one reason or another. He is somebody who is really passionate about reality TV, maybe even more so than me, and also has a more of a leg in that community because he was on Big Brother Canada, He has a brand called Thyrst. I teamed up with Thyrst when I worked at the Gladstone to do Reality Brunch, which is probably one of my favorite things that I've ever done. It was a boozy brunch experience that featured Real Housewives. So we got to work with Kelly Dodd from the Real Housewives of Orange County and Teresa Giudice from the Real Housewives of New Jersey. And then the hotel shut down. But it was really great working with him and like obviously meeting those women because I'm such a huge fan. And you know, my guest is a great person for me to know because it's just, I feel like when I moved to Toronto, I really found my people when it came to being passionate about reality shows. There's so many more people here than there was in Kelowna, which is where I came from, that love that whole Bravo world. And I really am excited to any opportunity I have to talk to somebody other than Evan about my passion for it. So his name is Aneal. He is amazing. I'm really excited that he's here. I don't know if he's in LA, Mexico. He's kind of a globetrotter, but it is a pandemic, so who knows? Anyway, please welcome Aneal. Honey.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Let me just send you to my headphones. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfect. Hey.
I'm so excited to see you.
Me too. It's crazy how like the last time we saw each other was right before the world kind of shut down.
Yeah, I was just saying that in the intro that I was recording that it was like we had such an amazing thing with Reality Brunch and then slowly the world just started falling apart. Like what the fuck?
And I was like trying to do it again, but it's the quarantine that fucks everything up.
Yeah.
It's like, the housewives have to come here, then I'm going to sit in Toronto for 2 weeks in quarantine. And then the meet and greet, it's all weird. It just probably can't happen for
another year. Yeah. I don't even think it's worth exploring that type of event right now because the whole thing that made it so great was that you could like have lunch and or like eat and then be right with them and then take pictures with them. I don't know. Well, what are you going to do? Put them in a glass box? Like have Teresa Giudice like sitting in a cage?
Right.
No, thank you. But you brought Sheena, didn't you? Like right before everything closed down. Oh no, she came and then it got canceled.
Yeah, it got canceled while she was in the air, so I couldn't even like tell her. So then she had to be here for like 3 days. And then we were like, oh, we can take you to the CN Tower, we can take you to all these things. But then they were like shutting down. Every day we woke up and there was like nothing to do. So we had to change her flight, which was like, we were on hold for like 7 hours. It was a disaster.
Oh my God. So what did you say to her when you picked her up, like from the airport?
Well, it was weird because she was supposed to have a driver. So then I canceled just because I wanted to like download her on what was happening. Got a speeding ticket while she was in the car, got pulled over. Yeah, it was a disaster.
Oh my God.
But the good news was all the press outlets were still willing to interview her. So she got to do E-Talk,
I saw that, yeah.
The morning show. So like at least that was something she got out of it because like all the other girls were getting so much press and she wasn't. So she was happy because of that.
Oh, that's good that you like, whenever I book famous people, I'm always like, what if I just have to sit with them and entertain them for like days and days and days? Like in BC, I had to pick up some of the Drag Race girls and I was always so nervous. Or James St. James from Party Monster came from fucking LA. And I was just so like, what if the event gets canceled? What if we get pulled over? Like, what if I just have to sit with them and they're like, I don't know. In some ways, it's such a great opportunity because you get to be with these people that you love, but then also like, it's anxiety inducing.
Yeah, it's so scary. I agree.
And you never know what they're actually going to be like.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like Teresa was like, she was just like not what I thought she was going to be. Sheena was kind of exactly what I thought she was going to be. It's just like weird because then you have to be yourself, but then professional, but then like, I want you to be my friend. It's like so weird. It's a mindfuck.
What did you think Teresa was going to be like?
I thought she was going to be a lot more high strung. But like for the most part, she was very passive and like, whatever you want me to do. Like I thought she was going to be very like, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing. Because booking her was very hard. Her manager is very like on it. But her manager was late. Maybe that's what it was. Remember her manager missed her flight and didn't get in until like 1 p.m.
Yes.
I think had her manager been there, we would have been dealing with like a different monster. But
Yeah, I found her, surprisingly passive too. She's like, "What do you want me to do?" And I was like, well, "I don't know. I'm so scared." Yeah, Kelly Dodd was fucking awesome. I loved Kelly.
She's so fun. But
I want to get fucked up with Kelly.
Right. Did you hear all these things that she might be fired?
Well, let's talk about the OC for a second, because I'm like, I last season I was like, this is starting to like move in directions I just didn't like, and then this season I don't know what's going on with the casting. Like, I feel Bronwyn, good TV, fine. There's a lot of shit happening, but I find her insincere. I just don't believe it for some reason. I'm like, I don't know if this is real. Like, the sobriety thing, obviously important, great that it's on TV, but I don't know. Something about it isn't sitting well with me. And what's her name with oh my God, what's her name? The one who's the domestic abuse with her husband.
See, but that's how forgettable she is. Like,
exactly.
I can't even remember her name.
Gina, I'm like, you are like my friends in Alberta. Like, great girl, nothing against her, but we're talking about the Real Housewives here. This is not like the girl down the street. Like, give me some fucking, I don't know.
They got it all wrong.
The other two, I just, Shannon, I love Shannon, but I feel like they're going in a wrong direction. They're just like the new girls are not doing it for me.
Right. I do like the Shannon, Bronwyn, Kelly being able to walk to each other's houses. Like, that's that. Cool. Desperate Housewives, I like that. But those three, I like. I do feel bad for Emily because I think she is a Real Housewife, but she never got a chance because Tamra, Vicky, and Shannon had her literally blocked on their phones.
Yeah, that's crazy.
She could never break through. She was literally like bullied.
When you said they were blocked on their phone, I thought you meant they were blocked on social media. I didn't know you meant that they were like...
Yeah, she could never contact them. Like, even if she wanted to be like, hey, let's go for coffee, let's go for tea, they like shut her out completely.
Oh God, can you fucking imagine? That sucks. I don't know. I feel like the wave of the OGs, like all of them leaving, is a little nerve-wracking because I like Leah in New York. I hope they don't fire Kelly. I know Kelly's problematic. She's like borderline a lot of things, but I don't know. I don't know why she's maybe getting fired. Yeah, but she's got the crazy eyes, man. We need Kelly Dodd on POC. She's the fire. Her and Bronwyn, I guess. If her and Bronwyn start fighting, it'll be great.
I think that's what's going to happen too. But I think a lot of like Housewife fans are gay, so they are mad at any Trumpers, if that makes sense. However, in the land of housewives, and if we are preaching this world of equality, we need a percentage of Republicans. I personally don't want to see all, you know what I mean, Democratic housewives preaching the same thing. I'm not saying it should be 50-50, but at least like let them have their space. Let Kelly Dodd believe that you don't need to wear a mask and that you can vote for Trump. You know what I mean? We need that stupid representation in a way, if that makes sense.
Oh, I think so. And people need, the reason why reality TV is so good is because people are like authentic. And that's what makes a great show. And if somebody is a Trump supporter and they're pretending not to be, it's like, I mean, it's the same when you go back to Stassi and Kristen getting fired. They should have kept them on the show and confronted them in front of the cameras.
Right. I agree. Yeah. They haven't been picked up. They haven't like started.
I know.
I'm nervous. I think it's going to be canceled.
Oh God. Well, maybe they'll get a spinoff. We'll see. Okay. So there's a few things that I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
First, Salt Lake City. Okay. Because I feel like it was the best start to a housewife city in so long. I don't even remember the first episode of Dallas or Potomac, and those were the most recent ones. But I feel like they really, really, really hit it out of the park.
Right. And I think what was smart is that production made sure, like, they were like, there's something here. And they went through every detail. Because, like, for example, the flashback of Mary and Jen was 6 months ago. That means they have 6 months of filming and footage that we haven't even seen. So by the time we get to the premiere and that party, they're all comfortable in front of the cameras. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it was just done so well. And what they were smart about, it's like Vanderpump Rules, where they all have previous connections. So it's like...
Yes.
we're diving into their world, not forcing these women to come together and hang out.
Yeah, I felt like it was very obvious that the relationship dynamics were authentic and high stakes. You could
Yep.
just tell that these people knew each other, they didn't like each other, or they loved each other, and that you cannot fake that. And when they try
Right.
to, it's so obvious, especially for people like you and I who are obsessed with reality TV. You can tell in a second, like, yes, it's all produced, period.
Right.
But I mean, you need to have real relationships. That's why they end up being so high stakes and screaming and
Right.
crying and flipping tables. It's because it
Right.
matters to them.
It's like what Toronto should have been. I hate shitting on Toronto because I get that they tried, but literally when I watched Salt Lake City, I was like, we could have had this in Toronto. It's like with the winter coats and the heels in the snow.
Oh my God, the snow. I just was like, the snow is so good. It reminded me of living in Kelowna in the Okanagan, because it's like this super small community, but a lot of money. And you don't really see it if you're just driving through, but it's there. And yeah, that seasonal town, I just think it's so unique. Like nothing fucking happens there, but they found this cast, and it's going to be so interesting. And also, I was thinking too, like this huge franchise coming to such a small city, like what that would be like for the community.
Right. And it was like I'm actually shocked they were able to hide it so well, because usually like things leak or whatever. Everyone thought it was going to be the Real Housewives of Chicago when they were like a new city's coming. I remember that. But then I also heard, this is some tea, is that so they had a production company edit the full season or edit a couple of episodes, and they like fucked it all up, that they literally handed the footage to the Real Housewives of New York production team to fix it. And like Mary was never supposed to be full time. She was supposed to be a friend of, in that previous productions company's like vision for the show. So whatever they did to like correct it, they did such a good job. I'm like so happy with it.
Even the music was different. And I was like, oh my God, I actually rewatched the intro when like it just ended. I was like, oh my God, the music is so different. And like this in between scenes, like everything about it was just tweaked. So it's like, it feels so fucking fresh.
Right.
So fresh. Yeah, it's so good. I can't wait. When they announced it at BravoCon, I started like, looking on social media, and I did follow some fan sites that were talking about who the cast was. And I remember seeing Jen Shaw a lot. They were like, she's going to be the one. And in the pictures, I was like, oh God, she looks too intense. But then when I see her, she's so likable.
Really? You like her?
I just find her likable. Like, I think that she is sassy, and like she did a party for herself that was supposed to be a birthday party. Obviously that's cunty, but I don't know, I do find her a little sincere. Like she's a troublemaker, I think, but also I didn't mind it. She didn't rub me the wrong way.
I'm nervous of like what it's going to do for her. Like I don't want her to turn into Leanne Lockdown. Does that make sense? Like there's enough to work with there, but like if she just crosses a line, it just becomes unbearable. And I felt like she was dancing on that line, which might actually make for a good housewife if you think about it. But I just don't want her to crash and burn.
What do you think it's like for these people to go into the franchise knowing that it's so popular already? Because Potomac always says they didn't know they were going to be housewives. They thought they were doing a different show. And then once it was, I don't know, edited, they decided it would, I don't know what happened there. But, Housewives of Salt Lake City, there's no way these women didn't know about it. And do you think that they watch all the shows and then start filming?
So I think that some of them did. I was like, I'm like, sorry, my dog's freaking out. That I was reading that some of them are true Bravoholics. So Jen watched, Whitney watched, Mary knows a little bit about it, but like people like Meredith have no idea. And that's how come Meredith was my favorite, because it looks like she like kind of took like an edible or something to calm her down. And it's just like going through the motions. And based on like the trailer, her marriage is the one that crashes and burns. So it's like when you see people like that have no idea what they're signing up for, and then it exposes like their marriage. And hopefully like if it does fall apart, we've seen it do good things for like Tamara or like Shannon when they leave these men. So I'm excited about that. I am nervous for, like I said, like people like Jen Shaw who like know about it and they're like, ooh, this is my chance to be the next like Lisa Vanderpump or whatever. That's where I'm like, no, just be yourself. Like I do think someone like Meredith will come out more on top than somebody that knows the game a little bit more.
It's interesting. And when I saw the clip of Meredith and her husband in the bedroom where he like leaves, I'm thinking, why the fuck would you go on a reality show when your marriage was in that state?
Right. She
Like,
has no
but you
idea what
must have
she's
not know.
doing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think the sell was like, oh my God, your jewelry company can be, you know what I mean? It's like more of a business thing. But I mean, she's
Yes.
selling Rihanna. She doesn't need, housewife fans, but
Yeah.
I'm happy she's there.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's going to be a great season. Like I've been waiting. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and I'm so happy that it's here. Now, I also want to talk to you about your Big Brother experience because this is why I
Yes.
think you're so interesting is because you love reality TV, but you've been on reality TV, and I just feel so lucky that I get to talk to you about that because in Vancouver, I didn't know anybody on Big Brother Canada. Toronto's just such a bigger place, and I'm curious about your experience. Like, you were a super fan, right? Going into the
Right.
Big Brother audition process. Can you just tell me a little bit about the audition process and when they called you and when you found out you were going to be on the show, all that stuff?
Yeah. So I was in university in Florida. So I went to school in the States and then I auditioned for the American one. And I got like a call back for that. And then they're like, you're not a US citizen. And I was like devastated. And then literally 4 months later, they announced that Canada's casting. So I like audition. And in my head, I'm like, I know it takes people like 6 times to like get on, you know what I mean? So I'm like, let me just do it. And then hopefully I'll get on by the time I graduate. And then I did the open call and then I got the call the next day. They call you like that same day. And I remember I fucked up my audition because it's so quick, the open calls. It's like
Yeah.
30 seconds that I was like walking to the Eaton Center to get a new outfit to like go back and audition. And on my way, they called me and I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And then it was a struggle because I would have to take a semester off. So I'm like, do I do it or not? And they don't tell you that they're like, you're in the top 25. And then you're like, what does that even mean? But you have to like plan your life a little bit. You know what I mean? And I just never thought I was going to be on the first one. Like I truly never thought, because it's like, you know what I mean? Those 10,000 people that audition, I knew at some point I would fit the puzzle of the cast because it's not about you. It's like they need to find somebody that is going to hate me or somebody that's going to potentially fall in love with me if I'm like a single girl, you know? So I never took it personally because I knew it was all about the bigger picture. But yeah, and then it happened on the first season and it was like, it was just crazy. Even processing it now is kind of nuts because the show has just developed into such a beast now that it
Yeah.
wasn't in the first season.
So before we talk about in the actual house, when they tell you that you're in top 25, you're like, okay. And then do they just like, how much notice do you have when you get on the show until when you move in?
So I want to say, I think we moved in February. So at the beginning of January, they just started asking a bunch of questions that were very telling to like, why would you need to know this? You know what I mean? So I was able to kind of see like, okay. And then they say that you have one more audition. But that one more audition is like your on camera test. And then you literally go home and like pack up and go. However, they're kind of telling you, they'll send you like a list of things that you should get and start preparing. So you know it's coming. You just don't know like exactly how. Yeah, and like for me, when I did my on-camera test and then went home to start packing, like my family was like on a cruise. So like I literally, I didn't say bye to anybody, and we were so unprepared that like they even just had like my mom call me to say goodbye at one point, just because like it was just, I don't know, it was like you think you know what's happening, you're like, okay, why are they asking all these questions? But they're never like, okay, on this date we're coming, you're packing, and you're leaving. So it's kind of like, that's kind of like it's a whole mystery game in itself, because you could get casted and be put in the hotel and 2 days before they can say, sorry, we've made some cash changes, which is insane to me too.
Has that happened to people?
Yeah, in Canada and in the American one, where like they're
Oh my
sitting there
God.
thinking they're on it, or they're sitting there thinking that they're an alternate, and then the opposite happens. They make last minute changes.
Oh God, that would be so devastating. So when they say, okay, finally you get the call, you're like, you're gonna be in the house. Do they say like you're allowed to tell your boyfriend and you're allowed to tell your boss or your teachers and your family? Or do they say, I always wonder that like you have to take all this time off from your life, but you also have to keep it a secret.
Right.
So how do you
So
navigate that?
So I had just told my mom because she watched and she understood. And then I had to talk to my boss to get the semester off. And then, not the boss, it was the dean, but I worked at the dean's office. But yeah, they made him sign like an NDA.
So oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. And as long as you like, I have to say, like the casting team is like they're so like, they don't scare you, if that makes sense. They make it really seem like they're on your side. Like, come on, we're gonna get you on the show. Like, this is what we need to do. Like, they're like really cool cheerleaders. So yeah, it was pretty fun. I mean, I told my boyfriend, I know I shouldn't have, but like, you know, it's kind of hard not to.
But were you guys living together?
No, this was in Florida. So it was like a college relationship. And it's like, why are you leaving for 3 months? You know what I mean?
None of your business.
Right.
Oh my God. And I think it's really impressive that you went to the Florida auditions and got a call back and then went to Canada and immediately got on the show. So I feel like you must have had a sense of this is my destiny. I'm supposed to be on this show.
Right. Like I'm like tapped into spirituality. So I knew always that I was going to be on the show. I know that sounds so weird, but I literally didn't think it was going to be the first season. And I always thought it was the American one because I was young and naive. And I was like, oh, I live in America now. Now I can do Big Brother. You know what I mean? But
okay. So yeah, I wanted to move into spirituality later, but you brought it up, honey. So let's go. This is okay. So for me, my spirituality, when I look back in my life, there is a direct correlation between me being obsessed with celebrities as a child and that manifesting into, I guess, like a self-image that was larger than life that gave me confidence to pursue my dreams. And because of that, I did a bunch of amazing things. I was fearless. I did a lot of cool things. And when I look at pop culture, I'm like, there's a spiritual component to that because it opened me up. It made me confident. It made me get a sense that there was more to the world than just my own personal experience. And same with nightlife, all of the things that have been superficial or even problematic sometimes have also had like a very big spiritual component. And reality TV is interesting because I'm 35. So when I was growing up, Big Brother was just coming on, Survivor. And so we were raised with this world of, you know, you can go on TV and just be yourself and you can become a star. Right. And I'm so curious. And what I really want to talk to you about is, what do you think that does to people's spirituality or like even their self-development to look at a show and then mold themselves or maybe like make decisions in their life in order to become on reality TV and then getting on reality TV and that being its own experience and how it fucks with your mind? Because I know that it can be spiritual. I've had that experience, but you know, can you tell me a little bit about your spirituality and how that related to, you know, like you said, I always knew I was going to be on Big Brother. How did you know that?
Well, because for Big Brother, I love the social experiment of it all. And it's like human chess. Like I think a big reason too, is like, I always said like in my casting process that I was like, I don't even want it to be on air. You know what I mean? Like I specifically wanted to just play the game. So like I was doing all these like weird online versions of the game. So it wasn't really like the concept of going on and being famous, if that makes sense, or like getting followers. I just wanted to play the game. However, then, you know, your wheels start turning because you're on this platform, you get inducted to this like cult in a way of reality TV people that are doing these things. And then as the show developed, you know, Instagram started getting more popular, Twitter started getting more popular. So it added this layer. And I think that's where I personally fell off kilter because I was doing it for the game. And then I went back to school and then I saw all these areas of opportunities that my castmates or future seasons were capitalizing on that I didn't. So that made me feel like that's what threw me off, really. It wasn't actually the show or playing it. It was like, oh shit, there's this kind of fame, Instagram following world that I could have potentially tapped into that I didn't at the time, if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah, it was just tough. And then I think now with social media, it's almost like the same thing. Like reality TV for us is kind of what TikTokers have now of like,
that's crazy.
If you get it and you blow up and you're successful, you can make a career, a life, you can be famous, and it's your gateway, it's your avenue out of your world, and it's taking you to the next level. It's not necessarily that, you know what I mean? Like, I want to say, like, if you even look at reality TV stars, there's ones that go crazy and it throws their life completely off instead of elevating it or channeling them into a path of, like, you know what I mean, spirituality or productivity. It's like crazy to me. So it's almost like rolling the dice. I was just happy that I want to say I fell off for a little bit, but I'm able to kind of dial it back in now.
So when you talk about like knowing that you were meant to be on it, was that like when you were watching the show, you just like you when you see people on TV and celebrities, a lot of people say, I always knew I was going to be a star. I always knew I was going to be a pop star. I always knew I was going to be a movie star. I always knew I was going to be on the show. And nowadays, the concept of manifesting is really big, right? Like you can manifest your dreams, do your vision board, do all that, and you can draw it into your life, which I believe I've experienced. So were you doing that with Big Brother? Were you like consciously like, I'm going to manifest this experience, or did the spirituality come later?
So I knew it was going to happen. And then when I got casted, I was manifesting this concept of the number 3, because I knew if I just made it to the final 3, I could navigate that to win, right? So I was getting ahead. 3 is my favorite number. Whenever there's competitions and you had to write a number, mines were always 3. And then in a weird way, manifestation, if you're not super specific and you're not really kind of dialing into it, I was out 3rd.
Oh my fucking God.
That was the mind fuck of the spiritual process, because I was like, wow, I'm writing 3. I'm thinking about 3, but it in a weird way backfired. And I went out because of a twist. So it was like a twist that has never been done. It was the first time it's been done, even on the American version. So it was like, that's always a weird mind fuck to me, because I was focused on that number 3 so much, and the universe just was like, here you go, bam.
Here's 3, baby.
Right, exactly. So that is kind of the big spiritual takeaway, I think, from Big Brother for me. I was like, if you're not very intentional about what you're manifesting, and if you're not like, you know what I mean? Like, it's also
very
like
specific.
Yeah, you have to be very specific. And like, just like a quick sidebar, I always envision, it's been on my vision board, of 6 months in LA, 6 months in Toronto. That's how I wanted my life to be. That's how I wanted to be set up. I go back to LA, immigration bans me for 6 months. So now I physically can't go back to LA, but this is not how it's supposed to happen.
It's the 6 months thing. Oh my God.
It's actually, like, when I think about that, I'm like, wow, this is how powerful this tool is. However, if you're just like throwing it out all willy-nilly, like, it was on my vision board, I've been thinking 6 months here, 6 months there, and the universe is like, okay, but now it's like forced. It's not the way I want it, and it's not planned. It's like crazy to me.
It's like manifesting money and then getting hit by a car and getting a huge payout, that kind of thing.
Right.
Or like wanting to be famous so bad and getting framed for a fucking murder, and then you're on the cover of every magazine. Yeah, I know it is tricky. And I found, for me, the easiest way to manifest was like when I wasn't thinking too hard about it. And actually, it was when I was fucked up in the clubs all the time, because I just was in this constant state of like, I'm a star. I'm a star. And it just created this magnetic energy around me. And I was honestly too up and down to ever be too specific about it. But I think if you are a little reckless, it does create potency. And I'm not saying everybody should do that, but I think once you're aware of the manifesting concept, it is actually more challenging, because your thoughts are so powerful, but then you get tripped up where you're like, you're doing the vision board, you're writing it down, but then it's like, it's not just open, I want to be in LA. LA would be so fucking amazing. You know, it's like 6 months, you know, getting too specific can interrupt it, but I think being specific is important. So yeah, it's interesting how that can develop over time.
Right. You have to find your own kind of groove with it in a way. You know what I mean? And that's what spirituality is like, people will ask like, oh my God, what are your practices? I was like, you have to find your practices for you. I can't sit and journal for an hour, but I'll do my quick 5-minute journal prompts. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whereas people are like, oh, I can meditate for an hour. Sure, I can if it's a guided meditation, but I just know I have to hit my 20 minutes and I'm good. Like,
me too.
You have to find your flow with it, because I think that especially, like, I like the Instagram accounts that are posting like little thoughts and processes or whatever. I just don't like the ones that are kind of lecturing. Like, if you don't do your 10 minutes today,
Oh,
you're
fuck,
thrown
I
off.
know.
It's like, shut up. That doesn't help anybody. And then it hurts people that are trying to embark on a path of spirituality. The day that they don't meditate, they think like they're terrible at it.
Exactly. This is now, so the whole concept of my podcast was like exploring unique forms of spirituality. And for me, it was pop culture. And the one thing that I keep hearing is people who are confident in their spiritual practice have let go of the conditions they feel they need to be under in order to be spiritual. They're like, yeah, I meditate when I can, or I exercise, or I'm an artist, or I'm on Drag Race and I'm a famous drag queen. Like, there are so many ways you can channel that energy. And I think a way to tap into it easier is by letting go of what you think you have to do.
Yeah. That was the most daunting part.
Yeah. When you, I want so bad to find a real housewife who is, or anybody on like the big shows who considers the experience a manifestation or like a spiritual, like they see that in such a superficial thing. Like, I'm wondering, do these people go into it and, I don't know. I'm trying to understand what it would be like to be on such a huge show. And like you said, it's a roll of a dice. It can take your life in so many directions. And if you went into it with this awareness of, you know, the dialogue with the universe and manifesting and how to navigate that, if it's possible to live in those both worlds at the same time, be a crazy fucking housewife and get known for being a huge bitch, and also be completely grounded in reality and like separate from it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough. I think people like Leanne, we saw it go so wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We saw it go like pretty bad with Kenya Moore when she got off that season where they let her go that one season. But then I feel like there's people like Candy that are a little too like, you know, she's found the nice groove of like, look at her career and how she's literally utilized Housewives to launch her career. But she, I mean, depending on your taste, she doesn't give me enough crazy manic, but it works. It works. Someone like Carol Roswell, like my whole theory about Carol Roswell is like, she's been my all-time favorite housewife. She wanted to join reality TV because she's always been fascinated about it. But it's kind of this concept of when you join a cult and you don't know you're in the cult and then you go crazy. That's what happened to her last season, is that she was always above the fray making fun of these women. But then the cult got to her and we saw her with her stylist. We saw her getting in Bethany's face. And then I was like, wow, this is, you know what I mean? I feel like once you enter the cult, there is like, there's no
you really lose it.
Right.
I know. Oh God, it's so interesting. Yeah, that is so, like, eventually what you see, what I've actually noticed with Potomac is now at season 5, they're really like, okay, let's just fucking get in there and do this. But I think that is not a conscious choice. It's just you eventually really stop knowing that you're on TV because it's been so normal. And that's when your guard comes down and you really get sucked in and you're like, oh my God, I just fucking screamed at somebody on camera and I never thought I would do that. But you do it long enough and you get sucked in. It's such an interesting way to put it.
Right. And it's the off season that I think is the head fuck of it all, because the off season, it's like, you know, they record it and then they just wait for it and then it airs and then they're doing nothing. That nothing time is where they lose their minds, and or a good housewife is preparing. They're getting their stylist, their hair, their makeup, you know what I mean? But it's like, is that authentic? So it's how are they using that downtime to really set themselves up? Like Potomac, everybody but Giselle came out swinging in terms of looks, hair, makeup, you know what I mean? But I respect that as a reality TV viewer, but how far do you push that to where you're not even yourself anymore, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I talked to David. Have you listened to Behind the Velvet Rope?
Yeah, David Yontif.
Yes, he was on the show and he was saying how when people get to the point of like being Countess, like Luann, where you're on the show for so long, you build your life around the seasons. And it's like every decision ends up being, how does this affect the show? Relationships, marriages, jobs, where you live, who your friends are, it all centers around the show. And then when the OGs started getting fired, it kind of puts everybody like, oh my God, this isn't going to be around forever. Imagine being Vicky on TV for 17 years. And really, when you do anything for that long, you have have to have a sense of being untouchable because it's such a rare occurrence.
Right.
And then you get fired and then you go into a tailspin, and she keeps saying she doesn't care, she's not on the show. But yeah, I think, how do you be a successful reality show and not have your life centered around it? It's like any job, you have to fucking focus on it.
Right. And someone like Vicky that's seen the most housewives fired, you know what I mean? In her career, she's seen the most people get the axe, and then to finally get the axe, what that does to someone's ego, I'm sure, is like crazy. I feel really bad for her, actually. And in retrospect, it was a bad decision. I think they needed Vicky and Tamara this season.
Oh, 100% they needed. I think there needed to be, like, if I was a producer, I would have kept those three and brought in new ladies who were like maybe another trio or somebody who was fucking fearless and went after them. But yeah, it was hard to penetrate that dynamic because they'd been around for so long and women kept coming and going. And I mean, how many times can we see them drunk in Mexico? Like,
right. Yeah, I get it. Gina FaceTiming from Walmart is just tough.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was a turn. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. And I didn't want to be judgmental about her financial situation because, you know, it is, I mean, that's more close to reality than what everybody is, but also Housewives is supposed to be a fantasy, right? It's like, you want to see it.
I want wish fulfillment. I want to see these women and see myself in 20 years. Yeah. I don't want to be, you know what I mean? But
I think another person who did really, really good is Bethany for like using the platform and leveraging it and being super fucking crazy, but also obviously grounded enough to launch her Skinny Girl brand, because I think actually I would say she's the most successful in terms of like coming on the show, leveraging it, and then moving on.
Right. And I was just listening, I want to say her most recent podcast where she talks about the fact that she was the brokest one when they started. She went up until her late 30s of like not being able to pull out cash. Like literally there is this whole concept of coming into your own in this later half of your life. Everyone thinks you got to figure out in your 20s or your 30s. You know what I mean? She was speaking to the fact like she was on the Celebrity Apprentice with Martha Stewart. She got all these little tastes in her 20s and 30s, but it never all clicked until like her late 30s, which is so cool to me to like hear that, you know, she got the taste of reality TV. She was a runner up. She almost won. She had access to all these things, joins the Housewives, and then really did it right.
Yeah, I agree. It's been really inspiring to see. What do you think is the future of reality TV with like the birth of social media? Because like you said, young people now don't necessarily want to be on reality TV. They want to be influencers. So do you think that will affect reality TV?
So I heard something so disturbing. I'm curious to know your thoughts, but you know how the Kardashians are done?
Yeah.
The Charlie Ambrosio TikTok girl?
Yes.
They're testing her family, and she's potentially going to be like the new Kim and her sisters. But I had two thoughts on this. One,
I don't know her. I need to look her up while you talk.
I'm not a TikToker, but she's like the most famous TikToker, Charlie D'Ambrosio something. Okay. She has like millions of followers. But one, TikTok or influencers don't make the best reality TV stars. They are used to controlling and editing and doing 78 takes. You can't do that on reality TV. So I do think that there will be this kind of divide because, for example, Gen Z is all they watch on their phone. They don't even watch TV. But then there's people like us, like I still watch Survivor, The Amazing Race, Real Housewives. They could bring the Bad Girls Club and I'll watch it. You know what I mean? Yep. It's like I'm so dedicated to that I'm not even on TikTok. So I think that we're going to see this divide. What I will think will happen is the phone will be giving us more reality TV. Like I think Quibi kind of had it right with the.
I do too. Yes, I do too.
But it was not done right, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree.
And then streaming platforms kind of fuck it up too, because you can only like the Real Houses of Miami might come back, and you can only access that on a streaming app potentially. So it's like we have social media and these stars that can't cross over to TV, and then we have these TV stars that can cross over to social media, and then there's a streaming platform in the middle that it's like, what are we doing with this?
Oh, it's such a good point. When I was in Vancouver, I was an agent for actors, and when influencers started to emerge, I had some on my roster, and all the casting directors were like, "Oh my God, send me Mac Harmon. He has 500,000 Instagram followers," and he'd come in, and acting and being popular on an app is very different,
Right.
and the charisma is not necessarily there. And I think it would be like a golden ticket to have someone hugely famous on a show and also be able to do that completely unfiltered. I'm interesting day to day, because a lot of influencers are fucking boring that I've
Right.
personally met.
Yeah,
So I don't
100%.
know what that. And yeah, you're right about QB. When they announced that, I was like, this is the future. It's like 10-minute shows,
Right.
but I don't know how you get reality TV into that format, because you need high production. You need like, what's maybe you know this, like the production life of a season for a reality show?
I have no
Like, how
idea.
long do
Like,
they shoot? Like 6 months?
yeah, usually 5 months for Housewives, but like for example, Real Houses in New Jersey went over 3 months because they needed more content. Salt Lake City extended because they filmed for 6 months and then they caught a new groove. So I think it's like situational, but it's also, you have to think, just because they need more footage, that's still cameramen, like people on set, lighting, like you still have to pay for all of that.
Yeah,
So
totally.
it's curious, especially with COVID now, where they almost have to have two, like a production team A and production team B because of like quarantine and all this stuff. So I do think reality TV, especially with COVID, thinking about it out loud, is going to see a hit. Like, for example, Orange County, I think we're only getting 10 episodes.
I know, but I mean, I'm not. I don't know. That show is really moving away from me. I'm
Right.
still gonna watch it, but yeah, I think I'm just thinking you have to put all that energy into producing these shows that look like they're made so quick and easy, and they're just going out for lunch and they're at their house, and then can you imagine editing that down to something like QB where it's like 10 to 15 minutes? I
Right.
mean, you could have a season last 2 years, really.
Right.
But yeah, somebody will innovate it. Somebody will find the missing link where it's like you're popular on Instagram and then we start documenting their life. I just don't know what that is. And it's sad to think that like the Bravo thing could be like starting. When they started firing all the OGs, I was like, oh God, maybe this is the mark of the slow end to Bravo's heyday.
Yeah, I think Salt Lake definitely revived that. But also, did you ever watch the Bad Girls Club?
No.
So the Bad Girls Club, a bunch of like the OGs got together and they're filming their own reality show and they're putting
Okay.
it on OnlyFans. So you have to pay to watch it. And it's actually crazy. If you like have time to do a deep dive, because they basically are doing it all themselves. And three of the girls was like, this is a janky production, quit. And then they're like filming on their phones. So I'm not saying that this is them getting it right, but it's the closest thing to like transitioning in between this like virtual film yourself to reality TV.
And people are used to watching people film themselves. So I
Yeah.
think like that video I posted of Evan making fun of the housewives, like that is what people are used to watching. And if you
Right.
already have a fan base and you can somehow convince people to film you when you're fighting with your boyfriend, I mean, I always think that there should be a show that is just like Zoom, like people you don't know, and you log on to Zoom and it's people confronting each other, like friends, parents,
Right.
and because really, do you care who like the reality stars? It's great if they're interesting, but also it's the conflict that's so interesting.
Right.
So if you could just have regular people fighting all the time, that would be fucking awesome.
Right. I love that.
So you do a bunch of podcasts now. You have yours and then you just started a new one, right?
Yeah, so well, it was in LA, But Now We Said It, which is like a YouTube show where we were doing housewives. So that's four of us that essentially the podcast world, especially when it came to reality TV and housewives, got so oversaturated.
Yes.
And then Bravo and Sirius Andy essentially are holding the housewives and giving them the exclusive, which makes sense. It was like they're feeding their own machine. So it's tougher, 2 years ago when we were the only ones doing this, you could get a Jennifer Aiden on your podcast, no problem. Now it's like you have to freaking jump through hoops and it's still a no. So that obviously we have to figure out how to do virtually now that I'm back in Toronto full time. And then with Thyrst, it kind of ruined housewives and reality TV for me. In the sense, yeah, because I had to become more competitive because the world of recapping episodes became so competitive. And you have to be so good at it that I was rewatching these episodes multiple times. And then by the time I sat down to do it, I was exhausted. And then now I'm competing with people that have screeners that are able to see the episodes multiple times before. So it just really ruined it for me. And then with Canada's Drag Race, I love Drag Race. I was so excited. I know half the cast. And then we went through this whole PR issue too, where World of Wonder held all the queens until after the show. So it's kind of like, it ruined it for me, if that makes sense. The fact that podcasting became so big. So yeah, I'm actually in the process right now of reinventing what I'm going to do for the new year, because it became just like, I don't know. And I get it. It's like, it's now just such a business model. So you're going to send Jimbo after she gets eliminated to chat with Trixie Mattel or Shea Coulee. I get that. You know what I mean? It was just shitty because there are content creators. I'm not saying that I'm like the only one, but there was podcasters and stuff talking about your show that brought this to the podcast landscape. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm not saying it's me, but at least give a nod to some of those individuals that really did put in the work.
Yeah, I agree. Podcasts are growing so fast. And I feel like just when social media first started and you had this really great organic reach and you could really honestly build a following fairly easily just by posting and making great content and being excited about it. And now there is just big, deep pockets involved in every aspect. And it becomes harder for people who are just regular people doing something they're passionate about to make an imprint. And it sucks. I mean, maybe we'll move towards more like micro influencers where it's not necessarily about having 1 million followers. It's about having 100 that listen every single time 100%. and having those like high engagement, because you're right. When somebody like World of Wonder and Bravo are like, no, we're going to do it. Then why the fuck would you listen to anyone else? You would have to be so unique.
Right. You have to be so unique. And it's, we live in a superficial world. This is why it's a superficial spirit, because people want to listen to the celebrities. They want to listen to the housewives. They want to listen to the drag queens. They don't want to listen to Aneal Joshua review the episode when they can literally hear, right from Tynomi Banks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's just a new landscape, really.
Yeah, it's true. I hope that, we just continue to find new ways. I think that you have a great brand with Thyrst. I mean, the events were just truly unique. Truly, like I had never seen a reality TV in a party before. Like, it seems so simple. Like, oh my God, why didn't I think of that? You have the Drag Race girls performing at clubs, but brunch with housewives, man, that was good.
I know. I'm sad that we were like literally 2020. My vision was to do it monthly and like just keep it going. And then COVID came. But I mean, that's like I guess the beauty of life, not to get heavy, is like you really do think you have it all figured out and have a plan. And like the universe is like, nope, not this year.
I know. I'm just like, I plan like a day in advance. I just can't do anymore.
Right.
What would you say then, like, just to end things off, if people are listening and they want to really either be on a reality show or immerse themselves in that community and, I don't know, interview people or just get closer and follow their dreams and manifest the reality that you did, what advice would you give them?
I would say like the worst advice that I got all the time was just be yourself. You know what I mean? So there is magic to that. So in terms of be yourself, I would write down the 5 things about yourself that you are and that you're proud to be. So I'll use myself for example. I'm a brown man. I'm a gay man. I love reality TV. I'm kind of, you know what I mean? Like a dry sense of humor. Like write out those things and then turn the dial on each one of those things and own it and really harp those. If you're auditioning for reality TV, as much as it's about a personality, it's also about telling the story. So you have to back everything up with a short story. So I'm a bitch. I'm a bitch because when my boyfriend talks back at me, I don't even entertain it. I just throw a glass of wine in his face. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like it's these quick bits to back up your statements. Like don't go on these long-winded stories.
Yeah.
Just be able to state the fact and this is why. But really the easiest thing that's helped me is like the 5 things that you are about that can be sold easily. You know what I mean?
The commodification of self.
Right, exactly.
That's the new kind of spirituality, honey. Because you're right. We all just want to like worship these idols and then find a way to be a part of them. And social media opens that door. So just got to like, if that's what people want, that's what they'll get. I just hope that they go into it with some grounding and sense of self and hopefully good people around them.
Right. Yeah. It's all about the people you surround yourself with. That is for sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Aneal. I've been waiting to talk to you for so long, and you did not disappoint. I can't wait to watch more fucking Salt Lake City and talk to you about it.
Me too. I'm so excited that we got a little catch up.
Yes! We'll do it again soon once the show's been on more and we can dive deep again. Okay, I'll talk to you soon, babe.
Okay, bye.
Bye.